If you've been looking for a new gaming keyboard, you've definitely seen these options pop up. These are the 3 most popular pro keyboards in all of gaming, and today I'm gonna try all of them. We have the Wooting 80HE, the SteelSeries Apex Pro Mini, and the Razer Huntsman V3 Pro. And the first one I really want to try definitely has the best reviews of them all, the Wooting 80HE. This sells for $200, which is a pretty expensive price, but you also get a ton of features for that price. Most notably, the HE in the Wooting HE name stands for the Hall effect sensors in these switches, which means there's no physical connection in there that can wear down over time, so these keys are supposed to stay crisp and last for a lot longer. It has a true 8,000 Hz polling rate, which makes it one of the fastest keyboards in the world, and an adjustable actuation, which basically means you can choose when you want the key to input. So at 0.01mm, even just lightly tapping down the top of the key will count it as a press, and you can go all the way to 4mm where you have to press the key all the way down before it gets counted as a press. It has rapid trigger and rappy snappy, which is kind of hard to explain, but these graphics should help. It's just another feature to help input your keys and actions as fast as possible. That's kind of the whole goal of these pro keyboards. This keyboard looks really normal. It has a little bit of a unique shape with the all black design and of course the RGB lights, and the sound is pretty nice too. It's not high pitched and super loud, but it has this more premium acoustic to it. So this will actually be my first time ever using this keyboard because I got it a few months ago but just never unboxed it. So let's see how this Wooting 80HE feels, and I'll compare it to the Apex Pro Mini and the Razer Huntsman V3 Pro coming up later in this video. Oh, it's been a while since I've played keyboard and mouse. My current setup on this keyboard is for my actuation to be set at 0.5mm because I'm not super experienced on keyboard and mouse, as you can probably tell. So if I was to have this set all the way down, I'd accidentally press my other keys way too often, like even more often than I'm already doing it right now. I'm not using any of the risers on the bottom of the keyboard either because you can have it angled all the way at like 10 degrees, but I think that's way too much. I just like the flat feel. And finally, I'm also using rapid trigger on only my edit keys so I can spam this as fast as I want and it'll input it every single time. And I am so much more rusty on keyboard and mouse than I expected to be. This is crazy, but this keyboard actually feels really nice. Even though the build quality doesn't seem like that crazy, like it's a pretty light keyboard, the shell is plastic. Honestly, when I first picked it up, it did not feel like a $200 keyboard, but I really like how smooth everything feels on it. I actually find it really hard to play on taller keycaps on some other keyboards. So like on this, when I'm pressing down the keys don't travel that far, but I really like that feel. It definitely makes it faster too. Like I honestly didn't expect to like this that much, but there's just something about the build that makes it feel really nice to me. This feels like a really great keyboard, but not a lot of pros actually use Wooting because they're actually banned at all the major LAN events. Within Wooting software, you can get some sort of built-in macros and double movement, so for us regular players, we won't get banned for playing Fortnite with this. It's a great option for us, but pros can't legally use it. So that leads us to the second most popular pro keyboard, the Apex Pro Mini. This is the keyboard that when I did my research on the top 99 Fortnite pros, over 75% of them use the Apex Pro. 39 of them use the Apex Pro TKL, which I already tested in this video, but the other 32 players that use the Apex Pro use the Apex Pro Mini. The price for this sits around $175 to $200, which again is pretty expensive. And honestly, with the Mini, you don't get as much as you get with the TKL. Between the two, all of the technical specs are the exact same. So the Gen 3 OmniPoint 3.0 hybrid magnetic switches, the adjustable actuation from 4mm all the way down to 0.1mm, rapid trigger for those fast inputs, and even rapid tap, along with a protection mode. So if you have fat fingers or are newer to keyboard and mouse gaming, kind of like I am, this mode actually makes the buttons around the one you're pressing less sensitive. If I'm trying to click my G button to edit but accidentally slightly fat finger F, the keyboard basically ignores that input, and it's smart enough to know when you mean to click it versus when it's an accident. From my research though, you can see it's a pretty even split on the pros who prefer the Apex Pro TKL versus the pros that prefer the Apex Pro Mini. The major difference is obviously the size. So the Mini is a true 60% keyboard, while the TKL adds honestly a lot more function to the keyboard. It adds a full set of arrow keys, 6 extra function keys over here on the right, a media control scroller, and a media control button, along with an OLED screen to show off the keyboard settings. Not only that, but also an extra 12 F keys along with a nice magnetic wrist rest that comes with the keyboard. The crazy thing is the price difference between the TKL and the Mini is hardly anything. Like, look how much extra room that already adds to my desk. That's nuts. I haven't used a 60% keyboard in literally forever, and this is my first time ever actually using the Mini version of the Apex Pro as well. And right off the bat, it feels pretty good, but I need to hop into an actual game so I can compare it to the Wooting 80HE, the Razer Huntsman V3 Pro coming up, and even the TKL version of this same exact keyboard. In this exact setup, the SteelSeries Apex Pro Mini with the Logitech G Pro Superlight V2 mouse is what a ton of pros are using as their main setup. I'm using as close as the same settings I can get for every keyboard in this video, so I have the actuation set at 0.5 millimeters for every single key. I have my rapid trigger only set for my edit key, which is G, and then I'm using the default angle, so I don't have either of the legs up at all on the bottom of the keyboard. I'm not gonna lie, I'm starting to see why players are so split between the TKL and the Mini. Like, if any of you want to get the Apex Pro, but you can't figure out if you want the Mini or the TKL version, I'm only one game in, but I do feel like I like the 60% more for just gaming. A common misconception is that the keys on the 60% are actually smaller, but they're not smaller. It just takes away the rest of the keyboard. Like I showed you the side-by-side comparison earlier. So this part from the escape to the control key is the exact same on both keyboards. However, the TKL just adds more keyboard on top with like the F keys, and then it adds more keyboard to the right with the arrow and the function keys. So like right here, when I'm gaming on the 60%, it feels a lot more compact. It just feels kind of cleaner to game on. I feel like the best way I can describe it is it feels simplified. Like, it just makes more sense. But I know this from experience. If you're literally ever going to do any sort of schoolwork, productivity, or content creation like editing and typing scripts, the TKL is way better. Trying to actually use a 60% keyboard to like write papers and edit with is just awful. Again, the technical specs between the two are the exact same, so the TKL is just as good for gaming. The Mini is just more of a feel thing, so I guess it just depends. If you're only going to game, I like the Mini. If you're going to do anything else, I like the TKL. Bang! No way I win that. Which is why the third most popular pro keyboard I'm testing is also a TKL. This is finally the Razer Huntsman V3 Pro TKL, which I believe is the #1 overall gaming keyboard in the world. It's not the most popular in Fortnite, it's still up there as one of the most, but across all the major esports games, this keyboard, go to product list, go to keyboards, the Razer Huntsman V3 Pro TKL has 14% of all pro players across the entire gaming world that use it. You can see almost another 5% of pros across the entire world use the Mini version of this keyboard. Like I just showed you, just like the Apex Pro, the Huntsman V3 Pro also has a TKL and a Mini version of the same exact keyboard, where the majority of the players prefer the TKL, but a good amount also prefer the Mini. It is pretty expensive. I think it's the most expensive keyboard in this video at $220, and just like the other keyboards I've showed off, this is also only wired, but this runs at an 8,000 hertz polling rate with your adjustable actuation of 0.1 millimeter up to 4 millimeter. It has Gen 2 analog optical switches. It uses Razer's Snap Tap mode for faster movement. It has a dedicated dial and control button, and a leather magnetic wrist rest is also included on this TKL as well. And now again, switching to a TKL, you can see how much more room this is taking up on my desk compared to the 60%. But I do know that I have actually used this keyboard before 4. It was just a long time ago, and I remember it feels cheap. It's the weirdest thing. The world's most popular pro controller, but it's light. The keys feel like almost hollow when you press them. However, once you start actually playing, the keyboard is incredibly fast. Like, it just feels insane. Now, I might be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure that the reason this is the world's most popular keyboard is because of the Razer SnapTap. I think this keyboard came out around a year and a half or maybe 2 years ago, and basically at the time it was this brand new, like, revolutionary movement buff where specifically for games like CSGO and Valorant, whatever type of game you call that, typically in those games when you're moving it makes your reticle a lot bigger and you have a lot more bloom when you shoot. However, once you stop moving, your reticle gets super small and super accurate, and somehow Razer was the first company to figure out a way to make it so when players moved in game they could keep that tiny crosshair the entire time. That's probably a very basic explanation, but I've never actually played Valorant or CSGO, so I can't fully understand it. However, I do believe that's why almost every pro player in those games uses this keyboard, or they use a keyboard of a company that has basically made their own version of Razer SnapTap. So like when you're looking at the top used pro keyboards, it kind of makes sense that especially in games like Valorant and CSGO, this is the most popular keyboard. I believe specifically for Fortnite, out of the top 100 players, I think it was around 7 total players use the Razer Huntsman, and 4 of them use the TKL, and 3 of them use the Mini. Which, yes, 7 out of 100 is not much. However, that's 7 of the top players in the world using this keyboard. So this obviously still works for Fortnite too. Bang, let's go. Not too shabby for being bad at keyboard and mouse. If I had to pick to use one of these 3 keyboards for the rest of my life, I couldn't switch off of it. If I was only ever to game on it, I would pick the Apex Pro Mini. However, because I do so much productivity, because I edit videos and game and do other stuff on my PC as well, out of these 3 keyboards, and honestly out of all the keyboards I've ever tried, I would probably choose the Wooting 80HE. It still has the 3 arrow keys, it feels great to type on, it feels great to game on, but you can click here to watch me try the #1 pro setup in the world, or you can click here to see what my keyboard and mouse Fortnite settings are. Subscribe if you enjoyed, and thanks so much for watching.